Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I painted this coin marker from the set The Three Hunters from the Lord of the Rings game, the Middle-earth strategy battle game. This was just this coin and I wasn't really sure what it was for when I opened up the set. But it was part of the set, and it's quite unique in that way that no other set has this kind of marker. So I was kind of intrigued, but also put it aside for quite a while before I started painting it. This coin had been lying around for quite a while, and now I decided that it was time to finally act and start painting this thing. As it's a fun addition to the game, and I hope this video is of any help to you guys, and if it is, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and consider subscribing to the channel as I'll be making a lot more videos like this. So for now, let's get to painting. So here's the coin we're talking about. Fun little marker with two sides, the good and the bad, the good and the evil side. We've got the head of Sauron on this side here, with some nice flames surrounding it, and the three hunter marker on the other side. So first thing I did was prime it in a light gray primer, and I started with Mechanicus Standard Gray to fill in the background, as it looks like a stone background, some cobblestone pattern it is. So make sure that is gray and all the colors in between are as well. I did both sides at the same time here. Now once this is done, I washed both sides with Nuln Oil, just to get a nice definition and some depth in there. I didn't really go easy on it, I just slapped it on. Make sure to spread it out so you don't get any puddles, but that can be really black as we're going to be layering over this later on. Now the first thing I'm going to do is get back to the Mechanicus Standard Gray and kind of block the outside pattern, but also the crown, the head of Sauron, the helmet, or whatever you call it. I'm going to give it a base color of Mechanicus Standard Gray as well. Now the easiest way for me to start painting this coin was just to put it down, but you can use a holder if you want. Then with some Dawnstone I added the first highlights. So this way you kind of define where these stones are going to be. These are quite large surfaces you can paint with this color, so that the deeper parts are still covered with the previous layer and the Nuln Oil. And we're going to repeat this step with some Administratum Gray, highlighting it even more, focusing on smaller areas so you get a perception of depth in your mini coin in this case. Now repeating this step with the brightest color Gray Sear just to the top of the stones or cobblestones that you are painting here, and that way you get a nice kind of glow effect, a highlighted effect. The helmet itself I'm painting with Black Templar over the previous layer. Make sure to cover all the inner parts as well, so you get a nice dark background or surrounding this helmet of Sauron. I also added some fine lines with a fine-tipped brush surrounding the flame, so you have some extra depth in there as well, so that it appears that the flames are really in the front. Now it's time to start highlighting the helmet itself, and it's going back to the Mechanicus Standard Gray at first to cover the largest areas. Make sure that they are really bright and even. Stay clear of the inner black parts we painted before, So this way we get back some of the original color, and I'm focusing mainly on the large areas, the spikes on his helmet here, and as if you were painting a regular face. So you focus on the parts that will reflect the most light and leave the inner parts a little bit darker. We're going to highlight it the same as we did the stone with some Innistratum gray, focusing on the sharper parts, the top here, and the more pronounced areas that will reflect the most light. So focusing in this case on the top and the bottom, as it's more sticking out and reflecting the most light. The trick here is that you present your paint as a 3D model, as it's actually a 2D miniature, or coin in this case. Now we're going to add some final highlights with gray sear to the very tips, the parts just above the eye sockets here, the sides maybe. Now it's time to paint the flame, and I'm going to use some contrast paints to do so, starting with Iron Jaw's yellow. I'm adding a fine yellow line where the fire is the brightest, which I figure it is just in the inside of the flame, going darker while we're working towards the outsides. Next color is Iyanden Yellow, which is more of an orangey yellow, and I'm kind of blending it with the previous color. Make sure to leave some of that yellow still pure, but blend those edges together so you get a nice transition from bright to darker. And we're going to repeat that in the next few steps. For the red, we're going to use Flesh Terror's Red and repeat the same process. So add it to the connecting area and carefully blend that with the previously used layer. Now I'm going back to some Iyanden Yellow to kind of go over the red and orange and kind of mix it together. Make sure not to spread the orange and red too much, because that way you might lose the orange layer and make it all red, and that would diminish the effect. Now with some Black Templar, I'm painting the very tips as if they were kind of smoky. I thinned it down quite a bit, so to easy build that up to the desired color, because it's quite black instantly, so you want to kind of ease it in. You have to go over it maybe a couple of times to get the desired color, but it's really worth your while. Finally, with some Dorn Yellow, I added an extreme highlight on the inside, just to make that helmet really pop out and give that fire an extreme hotness in the very center of the coin. As tiny as you can. And then it's time for the other side. I'm using Dark Angel's Green to paint the leaf on the inside. It's a resemblance of the elven leaf, the brooch that they get at the elves from Galadriel, and the three weapons combined into one symbol. Now in the meanwhile, I'm painting the background the same as we did the other side with some Nuln Oil, also defining some lines around the weapons, and you can use some Black Templar to make it even darker if you want, so they really pop out of the background. I'm also adding some lines around the leaf. And then we're going to repeat the same process as we did on the other side with some Mechanicus standard gray to make those stones pop out. With a second layer of Dawnstone, focusing on the smaller areas within the stone. So we get some depth again. And then finally some Administratum gray. You can take it one step further by adding some grays here or any bright gray if you want, but I wanted the background to be a bit darker than the object in the center, so I didn't really build it up to the max in this case. But that's a matter of choice. Again, here I'm focusing on the upper parts, the top sides of each tiny stone in here, as if it were reflecting light from above. Now it's time to get back to the leaf again. I'm using Ogrim Camo to add some green highlights. I thinned down my paint a little bit, so you can kind of blend that with the previous color. And I'm focusing on the more raised areas of the leaf. But also keep in mind that we are trying to paint a 3D model, even though it's 2D, so imagine where your light source is and focus on that part the most. For me this was the right side, so you can see that my right side has a bit more of a bright reflection than the left side, for example. Next I'm mixing up some Loren Forest and Mood Green to add a extra green color to the mix. Just to brighten it up a little bit and give it a bit more of a vibrant color. For this I'm focusing on the lower parts, the parts that we haven't touched before. And in my next step I'm shading this with some Beeltang green. Kind of blending all those colors together. And create a little bit of extra depth in this picture. Finally, I'm going back to Ogrim Camo once more and just picking out the very tops, the very edges of the previously painted layer with this same color. Just to really make them pop out. Then I'm repainting the black line with some Black Templar, which I attempted before with some Null Null, but I thought this wasn't really enough. And now it's time for the ring itself. I'm going to paint it with a base color of Steel Legion Drab, and I'm going to try and approach a non-metallic metal NMM look on this ring. So you could just use a Retributor armor if you want, but I wanted it to be more or less the same as the color of the inside, the axe, the sword, and the bow that we're painting here. So to kind of blend that together with the same color, we're going to give it a gold look. And give that all the same base coat. Now it's time to highlight that, and for that we're going to first add some color by XV88, adding that to the total picture. And because it's a more yellow brown tone, I decided that it's nice to add some details with this different color before actually highlighting that. So what I'm doing here is approaching it like as if it were a light reflection. So focusing on the upper parts, the more pronounced parts. And next I'm going to repeat that same step with some Zemezi Desert to add some brightness to those parts, but decrease the areas that you paint. So you get a nice transition in color and some suggestion of depth in here as well. I'm also adding a reflection to one side of the coin and the exact opposite side of the coin, as you can see here. And I'm watering down my paint to blend those two colors together. So you get an effect of some shininess to the coin. So a darker two quarters and two brighter quarters. Now I'm increasing that effect by mixing some Dorn Yellow into the Zamazi Desert and adding some extreme highlights here to the weapons as well as to the ring itself. So now we're really getting to see the effect. There are some nice details on this bow here that I'm picking out by holding my brush sideways, as you can see. Also the string I'm brightening up a little bit, but also the outside of the ring I'm approaching in the exact same way. Give the sword some sharpness here. Then with this done, you can see the shiny effect on the ring already. It's time to paint the sides with some black Templar. It's okay if that gray is shining through a little bit. It adds to the realism, I think. You can use pure black if you want, but for me this contrast paint just did the job. It's kind of difficult to how to hold this thing as it's both sides, so I decided to just hold it in my hand and went around it carefully, not touching the wet black part. And with that done, here's the final result of our coin marker. The head of Sauron on one side, and on the other side the three hunters symbol. You see that nice shiny effect as we blended those colors together. This was a lot of fun to paint, and I hope this video was of any help to you guys, and if it was, please leave a comment below and also consider following me on this channel. And if you're interested in other games, then please check out my Patreon page as well, as I'll be painting a lot more different games there, and some of them will come to this YouTube channel and some will be exclusively to Patreon. So make sure to check that out, I much appreciate it. For now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye!